Hey, g'day church. Hey, wanted to take an opportunity at the start of this brand new week to follow up on some things that I was talking about yesterday in this new series called Stand. You know, where do some of the struggles or battles that we encounter in life truly come from? You know, in the book of Ephesians, Paul says to us very clearly, he names what these issues are. And in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, he says to us these words, "For we're not fighting against people made of flesh and blood, but against the evil rulers and the authorities of the unseen world, against those mighty powers of darkness who rule this world, and against wicked spirits in the heavenly realms." You know, so often in life we want to point our finger and to identify our struggles by looking to other people. It's quite easy. Maybe it's your spouse or your children that you do this with. Often it can be our family of origin. And how often have we looked at our family heritage and laughed about the fact that we were Scottish or Irish or Italian and said, that's really the reason why I'm responding this way. Or we might joke about the fact that it's our struggles that we're encountering in this season are really completely attributed to the political party that is in power. But Paul would say to us, no, that's not the reason for your struggles. He would actually say you live in a physical world, but there is a spiritual world of darkness that actually surrounds us, that our fight and our enemy are certain principalities and powers that we come up against. And in these moments in life, it can be real easy for all of us to feel like we are alone. But we're not alone. There's a great story in the book of 2 Kings chapter 6 that reveals to us the reality of this truth. As the story unfolds, and I'm going to encourage you to read that at some point for yourself, but as the story unfolds, the servant of Elisha wakes up early one morning to find that the city has been surrounded by the Arameans. And in this moment, he panics and he rushes back into Elisha. He wakes him up and says, what are we going to do about all of this? And then this is what Elisha says to him. In 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 16, he says, "Don't be afraid." And then he goes on and Elisha prays these words. He says, "O Lord, open his eyes and let him see." And the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and when he looked up, he saw the hillside around Elisha was filled with horses and chariots of fire. You see, in that moment, God just did this amazing thing right there for this servant. And when initially all he could see was the physical, he opened his eyes up to a spiritual dimension to see that the army of the Lord was much greater than the enemy that he was standing face to face with. And I share that story with us this morning to remind us that so often that's the way in which we come up against our own life and we just see it for what it is. But I want to encourage us today into whatever struggle that you might be facing, not to downplay it and not to overemphasize it and to give the enemy too much credit, but to understand that in that moment, the Lord, He is standing right there beside you. He is defending you. And that when Paul says in Ephesians chapter 6, be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power, this is not just some trite cliche that he gives. That is the reality. That's the position in which you stand as a believer and as a follower of Jesus Christ. You know, my struggle is probably going to be different to what your struggle or battle is going to be. But as you head into this week and into the coming weeks, I really want to encourage you that to stand firm in this position that you have in the person of Jesus Christ. We get to stand in the Lord and in His mighty power, and we need to remind ourselves in those moments that when we feel incredibly alone, we aren't alone. Hang on to that story from 2 Kings chapter 6. Carry it with you into whatever situation you might be facing today, this week, and in the coming weeks, knowing that God is on our side and that we, as believers and followers of Jesus, we are on the winning side. Hey, God bless and have a great week as you're following Jesus.